Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast, where faith meets the front lines of culture.
We break down what's happening in the world, what's behind it, and how believers can stand strong in truth.
We're not here to fear the times, we're here to understand them.
Because being watchmen means staying awake, staying ready, and staying grounded in the Word.
Let's get into it. Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast with Tom and Wendy. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? I always forget that you're talking to me every time. I think you're talking to our audience.
Well, they're not here.
But I feel like they are, you know. I like to think of them as here.
Well, we are celebrating because today we're
celebrating
1,000 listens. I feel good about that. I'm excited.
I think that's worthy of a thank you.
Of course.
For listening, for
putting up with us.
Finding
Thank you
this being a valuable way of
maybe you accidentally
passing
listened.
time.
You know, sometimes when we watch a show at night and then we turn off the TV wrong, the show keeps playing even though the TV's off. Maybe that's what happened. A lot of people like accidentally listen.
Oh yeah, they kept listening or something.
Yeah, and they like.
Then keep it up.
Keep listening.
Keep up the accidental listening.
That's great. I would like to pop back in to some Candace. Did you read that lengthy post I sent you of her summary?
I have like the same reaction to like all of the like. And then you were like, you can't say you don't want to talk about something.
No,
but
you have like this very short list of Tom is eligible to talk about these things.
That's
only.
not true. But there's a lot of the like flash in the panty stuff.
I just briefly want to talk about it.
That's fine. I'm not saying we can't. But like my initial reaction is I don't want to talk about this.
Why? Tell me.
Just like I'm just sort of letting that develop. Like I don't want to get too caught up in it at the moment in the Candace stuff.
So many people are so caught up in it.
I'm not judging them, judging them.
But I'm being asked a lot.
And I guess positioning ourselves as podcasters, we're kind of supposed to like say something, but at the same time,
you want us to talk about, or if you have questions, I put that in every show note. And then Tom's like, I don't want to talk about that.
Well, the reason why I say that is because for me, the Candace thing is in let it develop mode. Like, I personally am not going to get like overly invested. I'm going to let her continue to put something out until, to be honest with you, until it's actually convincing. Because I'm not saying I don't believe Candace. I am definitely intrigued. I'm rooting for her to be real and on point. But
yeah, it would be great if somebody figured out what the heck's going on.
At the same time, it's been a lot of sort of trust the plan stuff. It's been a lot of the like, it's coming.
That's not what she's saying.
No, not trust the plan, but like nothing verifiable or specific names. It's ambiguous. It's definitely tantalizing and like wild, and it's attention grabbing.
Like our friend said today that it's the best evidence of a state actor potentially being connected that has been presented. I mean, are we gonna get closer than that? Is she going to get names?
Well, I guess I'm like, again, I'm so not rooting against her or have anything against her. I'm like, before I spend any more brain power on it, I'm like, keep going, Candace. Keep going. Give me something a little bit more. I'm not telling her to stop. I'm not telling her she's wrong. I'm not calling her names at all. Right, but I'm like, bring me a little bit more.
Brain power into
it? Yeah.
Do you know
I have.
Like what?
Well, I'm not saying I know it inside and out. I scan her posts and I've listened to her podcast stuff. I will be honest with you. I scan it a little bit because I'm like, I don't have time for an hour of this. So I'm like, what's she talking about? Let me see here.
Well, I sent you a post that like summarized. It was a written summary that she did.
Yes. And again, it's just like a lot of stuff.
It is a lot.
But it's not a focused picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a lot of stuff that we're like, how does this fit together?
Well, when we were talking to our friend, I was reminded that the reason why I stopped kind of giving her a lot of credit was she started, throwing a lot of accusations specifically at Erica, and then he didn't think she had, so I had to go back and look, and like towards the beginning of all this, right after Charlie, she was kind of very heavy on the Erica game. She's laid off that a little bit, but I don't know if she's laid off because it points more towards like another state actor, but she hasn't really laid off accusing TPUSA, which of course Erica's a part of. But
what I am interested in is using our social media voices, our energy to call out the authorities more on
why they're not doing Candace's job.
Right. And
why does Candace have to do it?
Why? Yeah, exactly. And I understand that, like,
I think that's a good idea. That's a good call to action.
When things are under investigation, they can't just tell you all the details. I totally get that.
But is anything under investigation?
But mind you, we're still working off of this premise that the official narrative is that this one guy fired a 30-06 round, which is a large bullet in the hunting rifle world, and hit Charlie Kirk in the neck from the front, and it stopped in his neck.
Well, it didn't stop in his neck. It hit his vertebrae.
Did not exit him, allegedly. And honestly, even the hitting the vertebrae thing is like...
many vertebrae.
That thing will come... It will go through a 16-inch wide-bodied deer and come out the other side the size of a dinner plate. Like I'm just telling you, it's just like
the wound.
Aisha, I'm being maybe a little bit hyperbolic here. A teacup plate, or even the bottom of a coffee cup size.
That gun. Why did they say that gun?
Well, I don't know. And so what I'm getting at is like the official narrative is so ridiculously unbelievable. And then of course the guy disassembled the gun or assembled the gun and jumped off the roof and blah 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 blah. And whether or not the texts are legitimate or not, I'm sure weird people talk weird ways, and he's probably a weird person because if he did this, he's a weird person.
Well, okay.
But it's just so unbelievable, and we need to
figure out the real truth.
Call it out, and I do think we are owed better. Yes.
If he did not shoot Charlie, this man, why would his parents turn him in? And why would he confess?
I come up with wild, crazy theories all the time.
Let's do it.
It could have been that his gun, if he was let's go off the theory that he's a patsy.
Yeah.
Right. Like he is involved, but he maybe isn't involved in the way he thought he was involved.
Okay.
I mean, his gun could have been a dang blank practically. And another shooter with a suppressed rifle from inside of a room another 100 yards further away or something, or a very similar direction, could have shot Charlie.
So, okay. Why would his parents turn him in, and why would he confess?
Because he thinks he did it.
But he did not do it?
Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's also, I will say this, I'm not one of the people that doesn't believe this shot's possible for this guy to do.
No, of course it's possible.
It's not that crazy of a shot. It is not an easy slam dunk shot, but it is also not an impossible shot or like a high degree of skill shot.
So your scenarios, the only reason that his parents would turn him in and that he would confess is if he thinks he did it or he did in fact do it. Those are the scenarios. There's no other scenario why he would. Well,
in the MK Ultra realm, and actually, for those of you who have listened to Sean Ryan's podcast, he just had a guy on who is like a master hypnotist.
But you're a little shaded on Sean Ryan.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, because he did just host Charlie's security guy that I listened to, and I feel like the security guy confirmed the bullet and some of these things, and I'm like, no, dun dun dun.
But here's the thing, like
okay, continue.
I'm sharing an example. I have my feelings about Sean Ryan's show, but I'm sharing an example of someone who is a master hypnotist guy, works in military psyops, all this. I mean, it sounds like the guy is literally straight out of MK Ultra stuff. And you can be made to believe things that you did or did not do. You know what I mean? Like that. Does that make sense? Like you can have false memories implanted too. So, I mean, there's just a lot of...
I've been hypnotized twice. I have a little experience in this. Okay. Just so you know.
How do you know that you're not still hypnotized?
I mean, you could say a trigger word and I could start chasing someone in the audience. It's happened to me. Even when I went back to the audience.
Was this at your senior...
No, it was at the state fair.
State fair. Oh my gosh.
Sacramento State Fair.
Don't ever let anyone hypnotize you.
Who, me?
I'm talking to the audience
Well,
now.
I won't anymore. But I was like 17. It worked. I was very hypnotized. Anyway, carry on. MK Ultra. He could be told that he did it when he didn't do it.
Well,
and I'm just admit to doing it.
When you were saying, you know, well, why did he admit to doing it? I mean, in this day and in this world, as wild as this world is, the things that we are entertaining, the ideas that we are entertaining in all of this, the idea of him being hypnotized and having a false memory implanted is no crazier than some of the other elements of this story. Okay. So that's one. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm saying that is one possible scenario that he believes he did it because of that. And I don't know. I don't know how much I want to go down this rabbit hole because we popped into Candace for a quarter of an hour. We did. You know, good pop. It was a pop.
It's very front of the people's minds, and
I'm
especially our people.
I'm waiting to see more of it develop. I'm definitely intrigued, but I'm just not willing to like go all the way and follow her every word yet.
I also feel like we have said before, with alternative narratives, like September 11th as an example, when there were fake narratives leaked out by the government, right? By
somebody. Probably the government.
To discredit any alternative narrative.
Right.
Okay.
That's actually like a standard operating procedure of these kinds of things.
So when Candace says she has anonymous sources that know information, I'm like, yeah, she very well could have somebody that is feeding her a fake narrative that is actually verifiable. Like you can actually follow these planes and this is real information, and someone is intentionally giving her a narrative that is not true. Like that is, to use your word, standard procedure. So just because she is pointing at things that someone can verify does not necessarily mean that that is automatically the truth. And especially because she is getting so many anonymous sources, I just feel like, of course, there's going to be some that are blowing smoke or coming up with something that they can feed her and she can verify it and blah, blah, blah. But it's like they're just playing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that that's also a reality we have to hold on to. But that's all. I just wanted to finish up talking about Candace because we talked about it at the very end of our last episode. And I felt like there was some more to say because I do feel like I was not giving her any credit in the last episode. I'm like, she deserves some credit for sure. But a lot of the stuff that made me stop paying closer attention to her was when I'm like, I feel like you're just really missing the mark. And now she's like abandoned that mark. But it like we said last episode, it reminds me of Q, how people who are following her will go with her any way she's going to go. And like if something dead ends, it's all, like, to use your words, part of the plan. And like now the narrative's over here and everybody just jumps over there. Like it's all connected, you know?
Well, and that is why I take the approach that I take with this is like,
play out,
it's not that I'm not like intrigued or like hoping it all pans out. I'm just like, I'm not going to ride every twist and curve of the road with you as it just goes all over the place for however long it's going to go. Let me know when you get to your destination.
I do think,
but I'm rooting for you to get there.
I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I thought there. Moving on.
But you did think it.
I did think it.
That's
I
good.
thought about it, and
That's
then
good.
it's gone.
It's like at least 90% of thinking something is thinking something. It's just the last 10% getting it out, you know.
A lot of my things I think I don't get out. What's next?
The Marjorie Taylor Greene. We were gonna pop back into that.
Okay, pop
But
back.
really more, it wasn't so much about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but we talked about like the call to action and just like
That was my thought.
bring it.
A good call to
welcome.
action is what you said, to use your platform to be like, why is Candace Owens the only one that's actually investigating this? Okay, that's it. Carry on.
Glad we hammered that one
Yeah,
home there at the end.
use that. I love a good call to action. Got to be constructive around here. Okay, Marjorie.
So in yesterday's episode, we talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, and also kind of like Wendy expressed how it's kind of demoralizing to lose, you know, if she believes this fight isn't winnable from Congress, you know, then you know, how are we supposed to believe it? And like, I can totally relate to that. I think that's a normal, not unreasonable way to feel about these moments. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we talked about, you know, but how much, you know, we do need to, like, you have to look at your wins, and we have come so far as a people, as the American people, from being utterly asleep pre-COVID to today. And we're waking more people up all the time. You kind of have to count your wins at those times when you go, when you're feeling like you have nothing to be grateful for. What do you need to do? You need to look at what you have to be grateful for, right? You need to take stock. And we have taken so much ground. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more to take, and you know, you can lose a battle and still win the war. You know what I mean? Like that's there's no doubt about that. And sometimes you lose a battle and you're disappointed in something, and losing Marjorie Taylor Greene in the America First movement is not a great day. And at the same time, you know, it's like we need to know that we have come so far. This is not indicative of the end of something. It's not the indicative of a loss of the war. It might be a loss of a skirmish. But we need to, like I said yesterday, rise up. And in order to rise up, we need to level up our own.
Rise up. That's a song from Alexander Hamilton.
From Hamilton.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a good one. I'm surprised they were allowed to write it, as a matter of fact. But
what we kind of failed to talk about, because I was thinking of it more in just like the individual, but is the spiritual side of things. And not only do we need to, are we as individuals praying into these things?
Yeah.
Even, and I'll go back to the Candace thing, the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, the Epstein thing, like, you know, are we praying into the light shining into the darkness, exposing the darkness and exposing these things? Because I really believe that is like what we're on the precipice of. This is a battle between good and evil, right? And that's what we're doing here. Like the reason why we want the Epstein thing exposed is we want to expose the evil and rid ourselves of the evil.
Yep.
You know, right? And
I sure do.
Same thing with Candace and what the journey she's on. And like, are we praying for her and for the revelation of what happened to Charlie, so that we can expose the evildoers and rid ourselves of the evildoers? You know, are we praying into it? And then taking it another step, this is really what we're going to talk about tonight in the, you know, subject of the episode, is, are our churches doing that? You know, and this is a can of worms here, but where what is the pulpit's role, the preacher's role in all of this in America today? And we know that these things are real issues that affect our nation, and not just these, but all of them. And we seem to have this, as the Big C church, this desire for neutrality, and this it's a spirit that's really pervasive of just this. We're not going to be this side or that side. And I agree with that statement, because what side are we on? We're on Jesus's side.
Jesus is not right or left, he's up.
That's clever. We're on Jesus's side. Now, there is still it isn't that Jesus's side does not come into play when you are sexually exploiting children to blackmail people. That Jesus does come into play there. That's something that is black and white, good and evil. We don't need to argue over that.
Which is why only one person in Congress voted against releasing the Epstein files. I don't think that's actually a very divisive issue. I think we're pretty
and
united
the
on
martyrdom of
right?
Charlie Kirk, and an evangelist, a college evangelist, a leader in the church in this country, in America's youth, is not a touchy subject. And
well, Charlie was willing to take the Bible and scripture and extend it into culture and issues that are causing our generation to stumble. Even Christians are stumbling over these issues. And Charlie was extending scripture to touch the issue. And I'm like, pulpits don't do that.
Well, if the issue affects man, if the issue affects families, the pulpit, the pastor, should play a role in it. And the way I see it is,
if it affects family, and what was the first one?
If an individual man,
a man,
a woman, I'm saying man, as in God's creation, an image bearer. Good. If an issue affects a family, the American family, it should be addressed. It should be able to be addressed.
About things every single day.
And here's the thing. This is where I'm coming from on this, is that if I think of it in like the perspective of my kids. My kids hear about trans stuff going on, and they ask a question about, should I not have an answer prepared? Yeah. And yes, I am.
Ideally, as their parents, our role is to give them the information before they ask the question. Give them information.
Sure.
That helps them navigate something we know they're going to come across. I know that they're going to hear about that. So we had a conversation a long time about it. Like, here's the situation. This is what's going on. This is what the Bible says about it. Now you're informed. So when you encounter that out in the world, you're not thrown off. You don't have questions. You don't wonder. You're like, I know what the Bible says about this.
That is good shepherding.
Absolutely.
Of your children, right?
Thank you.
And the same is for a pastor and his flock.
Yep.
That these aren't things to avoid because you don't want to say something that someone will try to hold against you or misrepresent you or upset somebody or whatever. You are either up to the task of shepherding your flock, of stewarding your children, or you're not. And we have failed, in my opinion, as a Big C church to do that. And I mean, some things, when I was thinking about it, it's not just these most recent issues, although these are the ones of the moment. But, we went through, and there's still a drug epidemic, but we went through an OxyContin epidemic years ago where prescription painkillers were just flowing out of doctors' offices and killing people from all walks of life. This was not a street drug. This was like your doctor
Cut Heath Ledger.
hooking moms and daughters and sons and daughters and pastors and like any of all walks of life
on these drugs
and killing tens and tens of thousands of people. And the church was silent even on that. Like couldn't even take a stand or mobilize their flock for that. Well, literally people withered away and just disappeared. And
so what is the purpose of the church? What is the number one purpose of the church?
Are you asking me or the audience?
I'm asking you, Tom.
I would say to steward the flock and to be disciples, like the common is take care of one another.
Not to make disciples.
Well, to make disciples.
You said be.
Sure, that's a better way of putting it. That's the biblical verse there.
So we're
to
doing
make
evangelism.
Disciples. Wow, that's a whole nother podcast or part of this. I don't know if we are evangelizing or not, but
sure.
To make disciples and
we're
to
evangelizing you if you come into
care
the
for the flock. Yeah. I mean, I'm boiling it down super simple. We could add to the list like almost endlessly, but
what are we doing? We're primarily possibly evangelizing or teaching. So we're currently in a church that has an altar call most every service. We were in a church that never one time had an altar call, taught really well. We've been in a church that kind of wandered somewhere in the middle of those two extremes, like what is the church doing?
I would say the church is what we might sum it up as teaching.
Yeah.
Right?
Teaching existing believers.
Teaching the congregation. We hear messages.
Mm-hmm.
And
you said
worshiping, which is that's another role of the church, no doubt. I guess I was thinking of it a little bit more in the tangible.
Tell me more about
natural.
why that's a role of the church.
Well,
I would say it's a mechanism.
When you say role of the
service.
church, do you mean a role of the church structure organization to play, or do you mean a role of the Big C Church, the people?
I mean the structure, I guess.
Okay.
Like when
in that case, it's not. I would take worship back.
Okay.
We, the church, the people of the church.
Well, we're worshiping.
Our
all
purposes.
the time.
Sure. Well, I'm not talking about just corporately. Like we need to show up for a choir. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it is our job to worship the Lord, like if you're talking about the role. But if you're talking about the leadership of the church's role, no, that's different. It's not, their job is not to worship.
Right.
Yeah.
Is
to me,
the capital C church, the structure, evangelizing?
I mean, I think we don't want to overgeneralize. We all have some of us might go to churches that are killing it on evangelizing. Some of us might not be. Yeah. So it's hard to say. I don't want to say that
I'm asking these questions. The reason I'm, trying to get clarity around it is, are we expecting too much from the capital C church, from our pastors, from our pulpit? Do they have too many jobs they're assigned? Are there different roles they're supposed to be playing as individuals on a pastoral team? Like one is a pastor, one is a teacher, one is evangelist, the Bible says.
Yeah.
It doesn't say be a preacher and be a teacher and an evangelist. It says some are gifted in evangelism, some are meant to be prophets, some are meant to be teachers. So I feel like some of the shortfallings that are happening at church are because a pastor, I use that name in a you are hired term, not in a you are gifted or assigned a task in the church term, but because everybody is named pastor that works at a church. But you are a pastor who's trying to shepherd and teach and evangelize. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you do all that as an individual person in that position?
I guess I'm like, I'm not sure which way I want to go with this right now. Of like, do I want to like start tearing into what the church is doing, what the church is not doing, or kind of going back to just super simple of like when there's a epidemic of drugs in our communities, the church has a role to play.
And that is to do
when
what is the role?
Well, no. Let me just list some things off.
Okay.
When the roles of men, biblical roles of men and women, are being stripped away and redefined, the church has a role to play.
Okay.
You know what I mean? When the world is attempting to re-educate or indoctrinate your children on being another gender than they were born and created by their creator to be, the church has a role to play. When do you see where I'm going with like when our nation is contemplating going to war, sending people, we talked about this on the Veterans Day episode, when our nation is contemplating going to war and not only committing heinous acts, but also shedding the blood of our own precious sons and daughters, the church has a role to play. Yeah. Like what I'm saying is there is no saying we don't do that.
Right.
Like we know that's not our place. That's for the world. And this is, no, your congregation is being affected by, being influenced by, being attacked by, being burdened by, the world they're living in. And you should be prepared to shepherd them through it.
Sure.
Now, it should be with biblical
not
shepherding, not your opinion, 100%. Yeah. I'm not talking about parties here. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about party preferences.
I'm also uninterested in what any one pastor might think of it. I'm interested in how the pastor is meant to go, God, what does your word say? Search for revelation and bring God's message to the congregation.
Yes. But that is not optional.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree. I saw a video today of a mom talking to her, very young, in a car seat facing backwards child, 3 years old maybe. Her child was like, a girl, Mom, I want to be a boy. And why do you want to be a boy? And was asking some good questions and then redirecting her. And the premise of the video is, this is gender affirming care. You are a girl. God made you as a girl. There's a purpose and a plan. Like redirecting your feelings towards and asking questions. Why do you feel like you're not? Why don't you want to be a girl? Did somebody say something to you? Yes. Who? Somebody at school said I look like a boy. Maybe I want to be a boy. Maybe I should be a boy. Okay. Somebody hurt your feelings. Now we're getting to the root of why you're, feeling this way or whatever. It was just the simplest, the simplest way to handle it was like so directly. Every time she's like, no, God made you as a girl. That wasn't a mistake. It means that if you're feeling something different, that's the enemy, period. You can rejoice, come back to what God created you to be. There's a plan and a purpose. It's part of your design. He didn't make a mistake. Like, this is exactly what you're supposed to, And I'm like, that is so simple. It really is. It's right. It's obviously biblical. It is countercultural to say something like this, but we all know deep down that is exactly the right way to do that. That is the exact right way to do that. And to your point, the only reason culture has wandered so far off this freaking cliff, when, like Charlie Kirk would say, I am not anti-trans, I'm pro-reality. It's just that simple. Like, it's just that straightforward, that anything that where you feel something that is unaligned with the reality and the natural order of your body, it is false. The end. It is a delusion. And again, we can use these words that feel harmful, but it's like, we don't come into
that's why there's such thing as rebuke.
Exactly.
It's
a spirit.
There's a
spirit. That
purpose.
is spiritual warfare. That is such clear spiritual warfare. And you're right. The church is not speaking into it. We should be praying over this as a congregation, monthly, quarterly, something. It's a very prevalent
An example
problem.
that comes to mind is even when in Columbia, Tennessee, gosh, 3 or 4 years ago, we had a run-in because the library board was allowing these insanely graphic books for children. They were in the children's sections, but not only in the children's section, they were
on a prominent display right
on
at the front.
display, like the top 10 books you would right at the front of the library. And I'm telling you guys I saw them with my own eyes, the excerpts from these books. We're talking about teaching children
how to do adult,
the most graphic
things with visuals. It's awful.
Things that
would embarrass you.
Most adults would know better than to even do. Like this homosexual, just very, very bizarre stuff. Definitely inappropriate for anyone who is a minor of any age. Not 16, not 17. You know, like
not 6.
Definitely not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And ironically, like the people that stood up, and we did have a pretty good turnout from the community, not nearly enough. Remember, this is the Bible Belt, right? Mind you, there should be Christians everywhere.
There are.
There should be. And interestingly enough, the only church that I recall taking action was from a county away. Brandon Taylor, Lauren Sutton, Brandon and his wife Rebecca, in a home church where they meet in a barn, that activated and showed up and fought for their neighbors' children. Now, there were definitely other Christians from the Columbia community that showed up, no doubt.
Pastoral.
And there may or may not have been a pastor, I might forget.
Sure.
But I'm talking about when that's occurring in your public library, in your public square, in your community, I'm saying the pastor should be announcing that to their flock and saying,
this is what we're dealing
folks,
with here.
this meeting's at 6:00 on Tuesday. If you have some time, I'll be there.
And
you know
if
what I mean?
not, you need to be interceding over our city, over this library.
In prayer at least.
Absolutely.
And that kind of brings us...
We don't know what to pray for.
Well, that kind of brings us to that next thing we were going to talk about of like, is your church interceding in prayer over these things? Even if you're not the church that is going to go to the meeting or go protest or do whatever, are you interceding in prayer over the subjects? Because if we should be praying first and then protesting, no doubt, but like, are we doing either? And I'm afraid that we're not.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid that we're not.
We're not, because we're not informed generally as...
I think the congregation's informed and the pulpit's refusing.
I mean, I think there's
I know so many informed.
both.
You're right. I'm not saying every congregant, but I know so many.
I know so
informed congregants.
So many Christians that purposely know nothing, like on purpose. I don't want to know about that.
That's fair too. Yeah, no, you're right about that. They have the same posture. Well, and the funny thing is, that's who the pastor is
catering,
coddling. Is what I would say, and that needs to be rebuked, frankly, in love. Like, wake up. This stuff matters, because we're either like
ground we're not willing to guard. We're
well put.
Conceding to the enemy. Like, you can have that ground. You can have our kids. You can have our culture. You can have our media. You can have our movies. You can have our cell phones in front of our kids' faces. You can have it all. That's fine. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to fight about it. You can have our politics. You can have our music. You can have, what have we not handed over? We are not guarding a thing. What are we guarding? Maybe our own intimate family, hopefully. But do we even know? Here's the deal. Do you even know what you're supposed to be interceding over your children for if you're uninformed about the library, if you're uninformed? Like, how can you even protect your kids in intercession if you don't know there's those books very available, if you don't know what they're watching online, if you don't know what their access is to online, if you don't know what their peer group is, if you don't know if are there trans people at school, what are they teaching at school? If you don't know any of those things, how can you be interceding for even your own kids? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I thought that was good. That was a phenomenal
I wasn't
monologue
sure if
there.
you fell asleep for a minute.
No, I was just letting you go. You're on a roll.
I did write an article about this. We'll see if it makes it in to the old mag.
I'm just very much going when coming back to that, we need to, in order to rise up, we need to level up. And a big part of that is the change in the church, but it's a change in the individuals, and it's a change in the pulpit, and it's a change corporately in the group. We have got to get over this part of the weak Christianity, the impotent church of America, and we have got to acknowledge the role and responsibility we have and the power that we have, but we have given up that power. And it really, I don't want to tangent too much from this, but like everything you just said, what made me think, when you were saying like, do you know about all these different things? Are you interceding over these things? Is like, how set apart are we?
Oh man.
And I'm not just talking about religiousness. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just talking about like, oh, I practice this or I don't practice this, or I don't trick or treat, or I do trick or treat, or I don't have a Christmas tree, or I do have a Christmas tree. I'm not even talking about that.
I watch Wicked or I don't.
Harry Potter or no Harry Potter. How set apart are we in like that we are on mission for our faith walk? Like we're actually, because that's kind of like,
Charlie was so set apart they killed him for it. He was so different than everybody else. I said this right after he died. The blame the church, capital C, carries, the individual church, all of us, you and me, is that where he was standing was so set apart that he was a single bullet. There wasn't a group that needed to be shot. There was one man and one voice that needed to be silenced because he was speaking so radically, biblically true, and the rest of us weren't willing to say it. So it was a lonely, radical position way out in front of all the rest of us. That's the burden we have to carry as the church, is we're so quiet and, willing to let him go do it by himself.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I had a lot of self-reflection of like, if we're not threatened, then like they're not afraid of us.
No.
And right now, like Wendy said, like the only one they're afraid of was Charlie.
And now Candace.
The rest of us, Candace is not in Charlie's camp on the biblical truth-telling side of things.
Which actually is another reason I'm like, we'll see.
Yes, but either way, they're not afraid of us. And that says everything.
They're like the demons, like the enemy, like the spiritual beings that are actually our enemy, according to Ephesians. Our actual things that we're fighting against are principalities that we cannot see, right? They're not afraid of us. We're not waging any kind of warfare that's actually taking any ground from them. They're gaining ground.
Well, and I want to say that
some are.
There is some, but this is a wake-up call to the church of like, and I know that some are waking, but if you haven't yet, if your church hasn't yet, this is for you. So I think if you're sitting here going, no, my church is like, no, we're doing it. No, we're praying and interceding over this stuff. No, we're out there.
Put your church name in the comments of this video.
I'm not criticizing everyone who.
No.
But but my fear is, and my message is that is not the church. That is not permeating the church, and that needs to become a defining fact, a defining feature of the American church, is that we are praying into corporately and individually and interceding over these issues in our community, in our nation.
We are saying what is true about it. We are saying what is true about it.
And we're not afraid to say it.
We are saying it.
Right.
And it is offending people. That's going to happen. But this is what's so crazy to me. And I know that we have this testimony in our church. I just know it secondhand. I did not see it. I think it happened before we attended. But where I can't remember if it was a transgender man or transgender woman, but whichever way it was, they heard the truth at this church and they went to the pastors and asked for donations for clothing of the gender that they actually were, because they had none. And they were like, I believe that what you're telling me is true, that I was born as a man or woman, whichever was true. And I need to go back to that, and praise God, right? Like, they're healed. It's a long walk from that point forward. I don't mean to say they're healed, dust your hands off, we're good, we did our work. No, there's a walk of discipling that happens after that conversion, after that transformation moment. But here's the deal. What is it that set them free? What is it that set them free? Was it worship? Was it evangelism? Or was it speaking the truth about their specific demon? That is what released them. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm hearing you, yeah.
Like, it is you have to, like, when do you get your convictions in church, your convicting moments? When you feel like the pastor is speaking directly to you, when they have said something that touches on something you're struggling with personally, then you feel like, oh man, this is for me. You get the goosebumps, like Holy Spirit is talking to me right now. This, like, you're like, surely there's probably one or two other people here that are struggling with the same thing, but that is my struggle. Now, we're okay to talk about, I feel like lots of churches talk about porn, like, as an example. That is something we don't seem to be very afraid of, like, calling out in the congregation, right? But, like, we don't call out porn and transgenderism. Like, we don't call out porn and sex outside of marriage, as another random example. We don't call out porn and homosexuality. We don't call out the sins that the congregation are not just dealing with personally, perhaps, but also not sure how to navigate socially, not sure how to navigate. And here's a great one. Somebody asked me recently, would you go to a wedding of a homosexual couple? And I was like, gosh, I really had to take a minute and think about it. And to be honest with you, I don't know how to think about it. I don't know if I should, or if I'm not supposed to, or
what's your pastor say?
If I can love. That's my point. Someone is supposed to be helping us figure out what is the right path. That was just such a good example that came to my mind right then of, like, yeah, there are things that I have to then take to the Bible for myself. And I think we should all be doing this. Absolutely. Take it to the Bible for myself and go, okay. And this is honestly what I came up with right then, was I love all people. I love people who are sinners, because I love all humans, and all humans are sinners, right? And I wouldn't necessarily ask myself this question about going to a wedding of a couple that I know has been living together for years. Wouldn't think of it in the same way. But why do I hold this sin over here over that sin over there? It's because some of the sins have been somehow dismissed. Like, we can't talk about those. Those are political sins and blah, blah, blah. And it puts it in a weird place in our brain where it's like, it shouldn't be in a weird place in our brain. The sin shouldn't be set apart. We should be set apart. We should have total clarity on these things of, like, do you know what I mean? Like, why would I hold this differently than that? It's because of the connotation the world has given one and not the other.
Well, and that's just kind of one of those things, like, where and it is a good question, like, what sin is your church willing to call out and what sin is
off limits to talk about.
Or overlooked. We'll just say
You know why
overlooked.
it's off limits or overlooked? Because it is political and it is going to offend the congregation in a bigger
Right.
sense.
Yep.
Nobody is going to stand up and leave because we're criticizing porn. That is safe.
Right.
You might feel shame about it inwardly, but nobody's going to be like, I'm out of here, because porn isn't really political. It is not. Yet.
It's also, and this is, I'm not trying to tangent too much, but like, it's also okay to criticize men. Like, men are fair game.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's a lot when you talk about issues that affect women or trans or gays or almost everyone else is off limits in some way than
well, it's going to offend. And if you offend, you might lose some portion of your congregation and some portion of your tithe. I mean, these things are connected. And whether they're conscious or subconscious in our pastor's mind, they're there, they exist.
Well, and what it is essentially is allowing the congregation to determine the theology rather than
the Bible,
rather than the pastor to interpret the Bible to the congregation.
Sure.
Because the pastor's acting in fear of what you just said, the congregation. And so instead of going, no, this is the truth, whether you like it or not, whether you come back next week or not, I'm here to tell the truth. Instead, they're basing their...
We're not going to tell that truth.
Exactly.
We'll tell this truth,
and
but we're not going to tell
again,
that
I'm
truth.
coming back to, I'm afraid that it's more deeply rooted in the American church than we want to acknowledge.
This fear you're talking about?
This dynamic, this paradigm where due to the perceived pressures of the congregation.
It's an idolization of neutrality.
And that is good, how you've been using that term, but due to the perceived pressure from the congregation, the leadership is behaving in a certain way, touching some issues and not others, or overlooking or accepting or whatever you want to say. It's maybe different in different churches, but it's much more pervasive than I think we would, if we're really honest with ourselves. It's like, man, what will we rail against and what will we gloss over?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, that kind of tells you everything.
It is the truth that sets us free. The people who are in bondage to these demonic lies are not being set free because there's not truth being spoken. What is being spoken over them? Lies and lies and lies. If you think you're a girl, you are one. If you think you're a girl, you are one. That is a lie. That is what is being spoken over them, trapping them in bondage in the world.
Right. And who's the counter to that?
The truth is not being spoken over them, at least not in any sort of, mainstream way. And I mean, there is no place where the truth is being loudly proclaimed over these people.
Well, that's good too when you talk about the role of the church. So like the world is speaking lies over people.
Mm-hmm. And the church is letting them.
And would it not be, what did Charlie do? He spoke the truth over people.
Yes.
And he was a lonely...
And he was called hateful, which is what the pastors don't want to have happen. They don't want to be called hateful or whatever,
we will
racist.
Be hated for him.
You'll be persecuted for the truth. Yeah,
that shouldn't come into play. That's actually biblical.
But again,
we
the
should
truth
be comfortable
is what is setting
with that.
them free. The truth will set this free. The enemy will have no... Jesus overcame the world. He overcame the world. His truth overcomes the world. Why aren't we wielding the appropriate weapons? Why aren't we wielding the appropriate freaking weapons? What the heck?
Yeah. And it is one of those things that like time and time again, like in the Bible, in my own testimony, in testimonies I've heard, it's like Jesus has already won.
Absolutely.
The victory's already done.
We don't have to be afraid.
All we have to do is embrace that idea, is actually walk and step out in the authority of the word, the truth of the word of God.
So true.
And it's over. Like But here we find ourselves in a perpetually fallen world, and we just shrink back and allow ourselves, we give up that power just because it's the part we're asked to do is so infinitesimally small. Jesus did it all already. Our role is like,
get on his team.
All we have to do is like
say what he said.
The smallest part is, literally reiterate what he said. Like, that's it. Stand firmly in that. Yeah, I would. The call to action tonight.
Let's go.
Is to do that boldly.
Do it.
And if it's just you, let it be just you.
There are people that are doing that. Since Charlie, there are more people. I mean, I don't know if it's my algorithm that's listening to me. Probably that's part of it. But man, I have seen people in my business that I didn't even know they were Christians are now putting forth almost entirely Christian content. Love that. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's costing them. I know they're losing followers. Forrest Frank lost 30,000 followers or whatever. Chris Tomlinson lost however many followers for playing at Charlie Kirk's funeral, whatever. I mean, it's absolutely, there's a cost. There's a cost. But there's also a gain. There's also a gain. And obviously the spirit of the Ezekiel 33:6, the verse that inspired the title of this podcast, Modern Watchman, is this idea that if you know what's coming and you are not warning the people, their blood, if they die in their iniquity, is on your hands. I need to pull up that verse. Ezekiel 33:6, I believe. It is, obviously, Ezekiel is a prophet for the Jews in the Old Testament, but I think it is still relevant. We are grafted in. These things are applicable, even though that context is relevant historically. These things are applicable to us today. And that is to me, that is a assignment and something I take seriously. It's important.
But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin. But I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood. This is pretty much the anthem episode of our entire podcast.
Yeah.
That as a church, we have to.
I do believe we will be accountable for the things we say. I do believe we will be accountable for the things we don't say, the things we don't do as well. And I think there will be more regret in in that. Just like you see when you talk to people that are at the end of their lives, they regret the things they didn't do, right? Like that is that's a powerful verse. That is just so freaking powerful to me.
Yeah, it goes on. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. So hear the word I speak and give them warning from me. When I say to the wicked, you wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not speak out to dissuade them from their ways, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. But if you do warn the wicked person to turn from their ways, and they do not do so, they will die for their sin, though you yourself will be saved. That's a mandate.
Good. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are modern watchmen. We are prophets. Like we all are. We all carry the truth. If you are a believer, you know what's coming. You know there's one way, one truth, one life. It's Jesus. That's the entrance point to heaven. There should be such urgency. There should be such urgency in this time. When we started this with talking about Candace because Charlie Kirk was martyred. We talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene going, this is not a fight that's winnable. Like, we are in the end days, y'all. There should be such urgency in us to start breaking people out of their bondage, to start recklessly pointing people towards the truth. I will say it.
Well, and maybe not the strongest way to wrap this up, but like the House of Representatives is a representation of
like it.
the people.
Yeah.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, like we talked about, her beef was actually more with her peers in Congress than it was with Donald Trump, because the House is as sold out. The representatives are as sold out as anybody, and including her own party, the Republicans that have the majority, are impotent traitors, and they're impotent would be the bet. They're meaningless. They don't care to do anything. They're watching the ship is burning and they're doing nothing. You know,
that's an accurate reflection
and
a representation.
But they are a representation of us.
The spirit of our awareness, knowledge, intention, and action. So we absolutely, currently, the Congress we have, we are in a losing
is the Congress
battle.
That the church allowed in there.
Absolutely. And if we're not voting, if we are unaware, like that is the representation. That is a great way to wrap this up. That is the representation of a nation that is majority self-proclaiming Christians. A majority of self-proclaiming Christians have picked representatives that do not represent our values, our God, or anything, any truth in the Bible that we claim to follow. And my beef with Marjorie is I don't know that she's a Christian. Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't know if she is or isn't.
Yeah.
It's certainly not like
I think that she's,
a pillar of hers.
Whether she is or isn't, she's playing a role and shining some light on some things that
God's using her.
Are reflecting back on the church,
because I do know that Mike
opinion.
Johnson claims to be a very devout Christian, and Mike Johnson is not allowing for any of the legislation that she's put forth to come to a vote. And a lot of her legislation is straight concepts we're talking about, straight out of the Bible, things that you can anchor. Absolutely, that is truth, and that should be legislated. And this gets tricky because people don't like to have, Christian nationalism thrown around, or like I hate to break it to you, but our laws are already based on biblical principles, because this country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and the Constitution presupposes that we have a creator that gave us rights, and those rights are being protected and guarded by that piece of paper, by that documentation. And the Bill of Rights are naming those protections specifically. Like, all of this is anchored in Christianity already. So we are already a Christian nation.
Well,
we don't have to worry about legislating our beliefs and values. And even an atheist would tell you, many atheists do, that we need to have a Christian Judeo culture. Even if we don't believe in a God, many atheists have said this. It is so advantageous to culture to have those values as your foundation.
Well, and the whole, like, the fact that we're so afraid of, and we're trained to be afraid to be called a Christian nationalist, right? And it's like we're
propagandized.
Propagandized. Yeah, that's a better word. We are propagandized to be afraid to be labeled a Christian nationalist. And it's, again, that very fear that is triggered in us is a representation. It's a reflection of our fear to tell the truth.
Right.
Because are we a nation of Christians or not? That's a rhetorical question. It's up to us. Like, are we a Christian nation or not? Mm-hmm. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's as simple as that. But the fact that we are subdued by a term, by a label of literally our own namesake.
Yeah,
God forbid I'm labeled a Christian. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a little too.
It's very Peter.
Dangerous. That's literally Peter. What came to mind.
Yeah.
Was you will deny my name 3 times.
I'm not that.
When I was thinking about what I was about to say, that Peter came to mind. we're literally afraid of our Christ namesake. Think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
How afraid are you? And I'm not being...
How obvious is it that the principalities are our true enemy?
I'm not trying to be finger in the chest or anything, but like, what are we afraid to be called or not? Let's be honest with ourselves. And I'm saying, like, ask yourself that, and maybe start to rearrange some things in your head and your heart about who we are. And we are Christians first only, not Christian nationalists, but it's like, I want to be a nation of Christians. It starts with me, and I'm not afraid of someone calling me a person who wants to live in a nation of Christians. That should be our job individually, our families, our churches, and the next thing you know, it's pervasive through the communities. But it starts right here with us.
I like it. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, share, comment, rate the podcast on the last call to action.
Rate the pod.
Thanks for joining us on the Modern Watchman podcast.
Remember, truth isn't just something we believe, it's something we live out every day.
Stay alert, stay discerning, and don't lose sight of the hope we have in Christ.
Until next time,
Be watchmen.